Good morning, Inspiring Illuminators. It is me, M.Engel, CEO and founder of Inspire and Illuminate, which is me out taking this jaunt with Jen. You may hear some snow crunching under my feet as the snow gently fell in the middle of the night. It is 4:41 on 1/20/2021, and I only do jaunts with Jen when I feel I have something to say. And a lot of times these inspirations will come around the moon cycle. A couple months ago, I talked about how there is, this is something that it's not new, it's not magical. It is pattern. While Mother Nature may have a little bit of variation here or there to how long the winter is, even have little superstitious, what do we call that? Ceremonies around that on Groundhog's Day. If you see the shadow or don't, we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter, or winter will start ending. Sometimes we have drier summers, colder winters, sometimes warmer winters, more moist summers. But in general, it's not going to snow in the upper United States in July or August. It's going to be warm. And just like now, it's not going to be hot in the upper United States when it is January and February. In fact, these are going to be the coldest months for us in Illinois. And you can sit and reflect what the weather is like for you where you are. And this is just a late January, early February energy report. And it has to do with the cycle, the season we are moving into next, collectively. So just a little recap. Around October, that is when all of our darkness, all of our shadows surface for us to deal with in whichever way we're going to deal with them. And if you are spiritually woke, you understand what that time is for. And if you're not, you just see it as a time of year to dress up and see the ghouls within us or around us. And then we moved into November, which really is supposed to be giving thanks for those shadow lessons. For shadows are nothing more than that. Shadows that we create that teach us, that lead us, that guide us onto the path of love, of compassion. First for ourselves, and then for others. For we live in the juxtaposition. On one hand, there are as many paths to get there as there are creatures and beings. And on the other hand, every single path is leading back to one: unity, compassion. And how long it takes people to get there, that's the only thing that is on the other side of the veil, at the source. The farther you get away from source, whatever you want to call it, source, God, whatever, the force, the chi, then the more you get away from compassion and unity. And both serve a purpose. That's the purpose of the juxtaposition. On one hand, we have unity and compassion and positivity, strong bonds that hold us together. Because when you have that unity, and when we're bonded in our unique gifts, we become experts in those fields. And then, on the other hand, on the other side of the veil, which is this side, the physical side, we had division. But humans have used division like in a misperceived way. Many people use division and they see it as darkness. They see it as shadows. When you become more spiritually mature, you start to see it more as pieces in a larger puzzle, little individual gears that make up a whole clock, individual auto parts, if you will, to make up the whole automobile, individual pieces of electronics to either make up a phone or a computer or a gaming system, individual cells and atoms that make up a whole human body, which is a concept in the Bible. On one hand, we are all a part of different bodies. You know, obviously our main individual body. But then we are parts of sports teams. We're parts of clubs. We're parts of organizations. We're parts of homes. We're parts of neighborhoods. We're parts of working places. We're parts of cities, states, planets, etc. And again, God speaks to me a lot through trees. Trees are hugely symbolic. That's why in so many cultures who never talk to each other, they talk about the tree of life. The trunk represents God and spirit, where we are all one. The bigger boughs represent those bigger collective consciousnesses that we're a part of. The smaller branches represent, those more fragmented pieces until we get to the bud and the leaf that we rest upon. And in the fall, if you are anywhere that experiences cold, eventually the leaf returns to the ground, returns back to the source, becomes soil, and at some point is pulled back up again through the roots and into the different boughs and branches again. So, when I woke up this morning, the energy that I felt was calm. It was reflective. The way that I like to describe it is like we are in a canoe and we're going down a river, and Source is asking us to pick up our paddle, set it on our lap, and enjoy the ride. Look around you. This is a time to reflect. So in October, our shadows and our demons came up. In November, and this happens every year, by the way, just like every day, we experience a 12 o'clock, a 1 o'clock, a 2 o'clock, a 3 o'clock. Sorry. I was almost going to laugh because it reminds me of a movie, because another way that God speaks to me is through children's movies. In the 90s, Fern Gully. There are worlds within worlds, Krista. There are patterns within patterns, people. There's the second pattern, the minute pattern, the hour pattern, the daily pattern, the weekly pattern, the monthly pattern, the yearly pattern. And so we're moving into the month of February. So October was our shadows coming up. November, we're supposed to give thanks to those shadows, those lessons. And in December, we're supposed to take the light, which is coming back and increasing, and transforming our shadows. So a couple years ago, God spoke to me through the children's movie Rise of the Guardians, where the shadows came to me, to them, and they said, "Don't you believe in the boogeyman?" And the little child said, "Yeah, I see you exist. I'm just not going to let you have power over me anymore." That was one stage of spiritual maturity. And now we're moving into the second stage, where I am, or whoever. If you're listening to this, you probably are too. And now, God spoke to me through another children's movie. And a lot of times I'll watch and I'll be like, oh, okay. With anything that I listen to or whatever. And then God shows me what it means later. So now, God talked to me through the movie that just came out, Soul, through Pixar and Disney. Now that I've learned how to chase away, if you will, my own shadows with light, which is December, and January, we make proclamations, we set goals, resolutions of how we are going to take back our own light and use it in the world, whether that's through diet and exercise or personal or business goals. In February, we're supposed to reflect on and meditate upon. I don't necessarily like the term love because it has so many connotations surrounding it. I tend to like the term compassion because I could be angry at someone and still have compassion for them. I could be angry at myself, but still have compassion for myself. Okay? So that's what we're supposed to reflect on in February. So what I want you to do is I want you to think, do you have compassion for yourself? Do you have compassion for your shadows, your distortions, and for the distortions of the people around you? So I said, God spoke to me through that movie Soul, where in the past, I learned to stand in my own power and shoo the shadows away. But now, God, the universe, is asking us to see the shadows, to see fear, to see guilt, to see low self-confidence, to see anger and jealousy and lies and misperception. And for those of us who understand, just like the movie Soul, go into the shadow and find the light. Because if you look at the yin-yang symbol, even on the dark side, the shadow side, there is light. And dark and shadow has gotten such a bad name. And I've talked about this before. Shadow is simply subconscious. And it is way more neutral than we've ever believed. It is simply a storage area for our feelings and memories and emotions. That's what the other side is. And just as we are individual physical beings, the other side, which some people call the Akashic Records, is simply a collective subconscious storing area. When we die, the only thing we take with us is our memories, our feelings about those memories, and the lessons we learned from them. And the full source would never want to lose those lessons. So they store them away. And when we're in this physical world and we pray, we're really asking to pull out of the collective subconscious the lessons that other people learned when they were physical and how to get through them. And if we clear our distortions, we can clearly hear it, the solutions. So what I'm feeling is calm, reflection, and I'm feeling the source asking us to start practicing seeing shadows, seeing distortion, and rather than saying, you have no power over me, I'm going to move into my shadow. I'm going to move into my distortion. I'm going to stand in your shadow with you. I'm going to stand in your distortion with you, just like the movie Soul. And we're going to find the truth that you are courageous. You are accepting. You are beautiful. You are strong. You are compassion, because the closer and the closer that you get to the pure source, well, first of all, if I'm being honest, pure source is neutral. A lot of people will tell you there's a heaven and a hell. Nope. That's just right here. It's our own consciousness creating that. What I've learned is pure source is actually neutral. And a lot of people would be really disappointed with that. And it's us who has the power to determine what the whole collective conscious field could look like. It is us who has the actual power of taking that neutrality and infusing it with higher memories, loving memories, courageous memories. And the more of us who do that, the more that is what Source will become. So, I woke up feeling this really calm, neutral state, floating down the river, reflective. But I think what Source is asking us to do at this time is take the next step in spiritual maturity. First, take back our own power and say to the shadows and the distortions, you no longer have power over me. I have full power over myself. And now the next step is to not just see the shadows and the distortions and leave them alone and hurting, but to actually stand in the shadows and the distortions, first for ourselves and with others, and transform them into clear perception, into what we want them to be. So for the month of February, I want you to see what shadows or distortions are coming up for me. And like anything else, this is probably a weak muscle. It's uncomfortable. So we're not asking you to just dive into the deep end. We're asking you to just put a toe in. Can I transform one little shadow, one little misperception? And that's what leads us to script flipping. So it could be something simple like, I can't get to work on time. Flip the script. I can always get to work on time. Okay? Start catching the shadows and the distortions and see if you can start flipping them. First for yourself and then for others around you. I hope that this talk has helped someone today so you can use your own power to first help yourself and then help those around you. Because now, more than ever, the world desperately needs it, and it needs you. Peace and blessings.